welcome to the Esoteric Deathspiral of music.
And today we have the greatest album of all time. Well, not the greatest album of all time, but like one of the greatest albums of all time, The Mollusk by Ween.
Yes, and we don't have with us today Noisebandit, at least for this section of the podcast.
Yeah, he is currently has AIDS. He has AIDS.
You may be watching, in fact, the pre-show. Well, I don't know if it's the pre-show, because it might be as long. But, But yes, we were talking about the Mollusk, the technically sixth, but not really the sixth, studio album by Ween. The, they're labeled as alternative rock, but really, they're just every genre. Okay,
I like to call their genre shitpost-core.
Okay, Wikipedia also lists them as experimental rock. The experimental rock band Ween, who you probably know because they had two songs associated with SpongeBob. One, they provided the song to the show, Loop De Loop, in the episode about shoelaces, and the penultimate track of this album, Ocean Man, which everyone knows is a meme now, was in the credits of the SpongeBob movie.
Yeah, and basically, Ween was basically started by a Chad and some fucking nerd in high school, and they decided to name their band after a combination of the words "wuss" and "penis." So this is the greatest band of all time. And they have stated in interviews that their creative process is basically go in the studio and record as many songs as possible.
Yes, so, Aaron Freeman, aka Gene Ween, once said in an interview, we didn't like each other. He was a jock, and I was more of a trench coat guy. But we sat next to each other in typing class and both realized we were into music. Which, a typing class is just the perfect one for these two weeniuses to meet in. Yes, that was a term that I made. Ween, if you're watching this, feel free to copyright. You don't even need me to pay any royalties.
Yeah.
But so for many years, they were just Dean Ween, aka Mickey Melchiondo, and then Gene Ween and Aaron Freeman, we'll of course just be calling them Dean and Gene, were just a duo with, like, a digital audio tape as their backing, except for, like, guitars and vocals, which they did, for the first 10 years, up until, the first album with really any, like, studio involvement at all was Chocolate and Cheese, released a few years earlier, when they finally got a drummer. Very, very, very eclectic band. I think that's the best way to describe them.
Yeah, like they're very they switch up their styles a lot. Like they're not the type to switch to one style. Like their albums will often go from genre to genre spontaneously, and a lot of their earlier work is very obnoxious and not accessible at all. Especially Godwin's Satan, which is basically Captain Beefheart, but even stupider.
Yes, I mean, this was a band. They met each other in middle school, in 1984. Their first album came out 6 years later, in 1990. So they were like a couple of, like, either late high schoolers or early college guys. Basically, yeah, just like shit posting before shit posting.
Yeah.
Um, I think the fact that their early work is kind of like particularly humorous and particularly weird and not really like recorded very well. I think that's kind of why they have the reputation they do of being like super weird. Because, like, I don't want to get too much into the overall opinions of the album yet, but, like, with most of the music here, I didn't find it, like, all that weird.
Yeah, like they're not really that weird. It's more like in the spirit of it. It is it's not weird in the sense of like, oh, it's a 21-minute drone song with laughing in the background or something like that. It's pretty standard rock music, but on the other hand, it's very obnoxious at times and it's very creative, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, there was one song on this album with a dog barking in the background.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not too different from that drone song you mentioned. If you just cut the time by by 7 minutes. I mean, not 7 minutes, by 7 times, because that song's only 3 minutes. I was surprised you liked that song, thanks to the dog barking.
Yeah, fuck dogs, but it's still a great song.
Yeah, but so this album, the Mollusk, this is, uh, I mean, one probably the most well-known album they've ever made. They did have on one of their earlier albums, Pure Guava, they had a single called Push the Little Daisies that actually did manage to like chart on some charts. But this album is probably the most well known nowadays thanks to Ocean Man.
Yeah.
Um, and it's probably also their most acclaimed album, or one of their most acclaimed. Like, uh, this is pretty much always the album that I hear people mention if they're gonna talk about Ween.
Yeah, because it's like because this album like follows a narrative and is definitely their most fleshed out album by far.
Yeah, this is concept-ish. uh, there's like kind of a narrative going on here about three guys at sea, or at least assumedly three guys, as they mentioned that in the last track here. She wanted to leave. Um, and also in there's a hidden track that's an instrumental reprise of the first. So there's kind of a vague concept going on here, and sort of a vaguely nautical sound to a lot of this. Because
Yeah.
there's a little bit of a sea shanty influence on a fair amount of these songs, but I wouldn't really say it's a concept album in the traditional sense, like
No.
that it has a narrative or anything. Like Wikipedia calls it one, but I wouldn't say it really is at all. And in a way, I almost see that as a downside because I think some of these songs could flow into each other better. For the record,
Um
though, I gave this album like an 8 out of 10. I still liked it a lot.
I think that's actually a positive because I think it leaves room for the viewer to kind of craft their own narrative in their own head because there's kind of a meta narrative going on here where it's basically just about a bunch of guys on acid. Um, at least in my head canon.
Well, I was, I did some research, scare quotes, when listening to this album, aka I read a lot on Wikipedia. I only just now have Genius up. um, and Mutilated Lips, which was the lead single for the album and also a sort of minor hit for the band. That song is explicitly about drugs. Like
Yeah.
it's been confirmed. So, you know.
But yeah. If we're gonna tell our opinions, I think this album is a 10. Like, I think it's perfect. It's one of my favorites. Um, and I don't really have much to complain about it. Sure, there'll probably be a bit of disagreements, but you seem to like the album a lot, so
Um yeah, I do like it quite a bit. I I just think like if this album were all the way through as good as the best parts, I'd probably give it like a 9 or a 10. But as it is now, I feel like it's a little inconsistent. Which leads us into the track by track. Let's do it. So, starting off, we have I'm Dancing in the Show Tonight, which is a reworking. Well, no. I'm not laughing just because of the song. I'm laughing partially because this is one of two songs on the album that isn't like a Ween original. This song is a reworking of a 1953 Christmas song titled Are My Ears On Straight, recorded by a girl named Gayla Peavy, who was a child star at the time. So, yeah. This is a cover of a novelty song recorded by a 10-year-old.
and that's what I love about Ween, and that's what I love about this album, because as soon as this, like, I just get so happy when I hear those opening chords.
um, I like this song quite a bit. One, it's just it's a good old weird opener. Like
Yeah,
you you turn the album on and you're greeted by these like tinkly pianos and other and like other kind of like children's song esque instrumentals, and you're like,
yeah,
what's going on here? This album has a cover by the guy who did The Dark Side of the Moon and all the other Pink Floyd album covers like 10 years ago, and who would do the Mars Volta album covers 5 years later. What's going on here?
yeah. And Ween is known for doing weird openers, like you fucked up on Godwin Satan. It's gonna be a long night on Quebec. Like they're known for doing like these weird abrasive openers, but this is kind of like the opposite of their usual abrasive style when it comes to openers. This is like this is very welcoming and very juvenile.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I'd really call it welcoming. Like, they do some like weird like pitch shifting on the vocals, which um I like it a bit on this song, but there is a song later where I am not such a big fan. Um there's like kind of the weird pitch shifting vocals and like I don't know. I wouldn't really call it welcoming just because you're not really sure like is is this just like a weird joke song? Is it gonna like spiral off into some weird direction? Because like
Mm,
it, because like it almost sounds like a joke opening to like a real song, or like it almost sounds like it'd like suddenly turn into like a heavier song or something like that. Like
yeah.
especially if you're like me and you haven't really heard anything from the band outside of Ocean Man and like a 5 second clip of Push the Little Daisies because it showed up in a Todd in the Shadows video. So yeah, this opening is great. I like it's like a weird I like the fact that it's like it doesn't really seem to have anything to do with anything else on the album. Like, I mean, I guess I'm I'm dancing in the show tonight. I guess that kind of like lyrical refrain here could refer to just like going on a journey, but I like how little this has to do with anything else on the album, like sound wise, lyrically. It's great. Um, because it just really kind of throws you off guard.
Yeah.
But so now we get into the Mollusk, the title track, which I love. What do you
Oh
think of
yeah.
this song?
This is definitely like one of my favorite tracks off here. It's just so dreamy and ethereal, and you know how much I love ethereal things.
I think I like this song and Cold Blows the Wind as much.
Hmm.
Those are my two favorite songs. It's always the sad songs that end up being my favorite.
Yeah, me
um
too.
well, although this one I'm not really sure if it's sad per se. I guess you're kind of right to call it ethereal, cuz like the the vibe of this song is very like, yeah, I guess it is just like, I think this is the first song where they get into like the nautical theme really, because this song, it sounds like you're on a beach
Yeah.
and like the greatest beach you could imagine, like just the right temperature, just the right softness of the sand. Some like little creatures are crawling by and swimming by, but they're not like getting in your way or anything. It's a very it's it sounds like it sounds like almost like the way you'd see a beach in like a video game.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
Like it has that kind of that nostalgic feeling to it. It has that it has it kind of sounds like the N64 to me. I don't know why, but it does.
the main like, I don't know, sample, the weird little electronic noise that keeps playing throughout it. It sounds it does sound kind of N64 era,
Yeah.
which makes sense because this song itself is N64 era. And like a lot of like the best game soundtracks from that era, this song, it feels very like purposefully evoking nostalgia, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, firstly, lyrically this song is like, um I'm not sure like what the relation between these two characters are, but it's like an adult speaking to a kid and then sort of sort of a call and response thing, and I think that helps. Like this song kind of feels like it's almost like you're like thinking back about like an older relative who you haven't seen in
Yeah.
many years and your fun times on the beach.
Yeah. Like I can't relate to it because all relatives are weird and old. I'm kidding. They're fine. But uh I do kind of relate to this feeling of like this new person comes and like get, tries to bring you along this journey, and it's all whimsical and innocent and fun, and that's kind of the appeal of the track.
Yeah, I feel like this is really, I think this is probably the welcoming part of the album, where it's
Yeah.
like first you have I'm dancing in the show tonight and you're like, this is kind of weird, but I'm interested. And then you get into this and you're like, oh, now I'm on a magical journey. I'm ready. Now I'm happy. I love everything. But then they throw you right off guard again with the next track, Polka Dot Tail. Do you just want to get right into that? Because like I don't
Sure.
really I don't really have much to say about like the lyrics on this album. Like, uh, so this is the first time in a couple weeks where we're covering an album that I haven't listened to like a dozen times, and those tend to be the only albums that I know anything about the lyrics on.
Hmm. But on Polka Dot Tail,
Yeah,
the lyrics are pretty straightforward. It's basically describing a bunch of trippy things and like presenting them in this like very it's very whimsical but also very odd sort of way.
yeah. This song, it almost reminds me of like it almost reminds me of like a Dr. Seuss kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, did you ever see a whale with a polka dot tail? Did you ever see a man with 8 fingers on his hand? Did you have to dry your eye when you saw that puppy fly? Like, it sounds very Dr. Seuss. They only repeat. They don't have any lyrics aside from this stanza here, and then it ends with the "Oh no, tell me it ain't so." One thing we haven't mentioned yet, um, is that the vocals are kind of as diverse as the instrumentals on this album. There's only two singers, but they do a lot of like vocal effects and like pitch shifting, and like every once in a while they just outright sing in a different accent. Like there's two tracks on this album where they do that.
Yeah.
And like you can kind of believe that there are two vocalists. But when I first listened to this album, I kind of like at first I was like, how does one guy do all this? And even with two guys, it is still a little bit like it kind of sounds like they just like switched out singers like a couple more times.
Yeah. They just got wide range.
Yeah.
Instrumentally though, I love this song because it kind of sounds like a 60s psychedelic song.
Yeah, this is I think the first time that things kind of get psychedelic on the album is on the last track, the title track, where we had that really weird, well not really weird, but that somewhat weird and very pleasant sound effect that came through a couple times. And
Yeah.
the nice little spoken word segment in there. But this song is where we start getting more psychedelic with the instrumentation.
Yeah. And we see kind of like the childish whimsical theme kind of starting to get weirder and darker, kind of like my childhood drifting away from me because I'm
Oof.
getting older. God help me.
I wish I could like say something comforting, but like I'm 3 years older than you, and I also am equally miserable. So, well, I guess that's comforting. You'll only be equally miserable.
But yeah, polka
Yeah,
dot tail.
I like at the yeah. I don't have a lot to say about this one. I think the only other thing I'll really say is just the "Oh no, tell me it ain't so" at the end of all the stanzas. That's a nice kind of uncomfortable note to end on.
Yeah.
And now we get into another. We get into a pretty weird one here. "I'll be your Johnny on the spot," which is like a country punk song.
Yeah.
That's how I describe the instrumentation on this.
With like a little bit of like a psychedelic undertone to it.
A little bit. And like a little bit of like a video gamey feel to it, or like kind of electronic. Like I'm not sure how much of the instrumentation in this song is just like a guitar through a weird filter, and how much of it is like a synthesizer.
Yeah.
Because like the rhythm guitar on this track sounds like pretty weird and fuzzy. It probably is just like a fuzz pedal, but still, this is definitely like it the tone shifting here in these three tracks. I like it because it's pretty gradual. Like we get into the really dreamy title track, and then Polka Dot Tail is like kind of just weird and kind of off kilter, and then we get into this song, which is like tonally like completely different, and lyrically again it feels kind of disconnected from everything. This song is about a guy on a farm with Chevy. He'll be your Johnny on the spot. Uh, and it's like I'm not entirely sure what any of this means or has to do with anything, but I enjoy it quite a bit.
I do
This is a
too.
very fun song.
Musically, I do think that it's kind of like you've gotten over the weirdness of your situation. You're now along for the journey. You are on the ship and you're going fast because it's a future ship. And you're just like going really fucking fast and everything's cool and Johnny on the spot. ah oh god, I don't have words. All I have is emotions. I just have grunts and weird sounds to
Oh,
describe this song.
you could make a Ween song about this Ween song.
Yeah, you can yeah, fuck. ah
So yeah, um, and then we get into Mutilated Lips, like I mentioned earlier, lead single from the album. Um, I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this song.
really, I expect you to like this actually.
Well, I do like it, but like I like it, but it kind of bothers me.
How so?
Well, the lyrics and the instrumentation kind of seem to be at odds with each other. Like the guitars in this are like kind of sad, but then like the lyrics are just kind of like about drugs, and then like in the chorus they like instead of just like doing another take where they sing it higher in a different key, they just pitch shift it up, and like I find it kind of obnoxious.
Yeah, but like I think the pitch shifting actually adds to the whole vibe of the album. And I think the it being just about drugs and having that kind of sound is like you're about to take some drugs and you're kind of uneasy about it. You don't know what is going to happen. And it's that kind of melancholic feel of you don't want to be left out, but you you're still not sure how this will affect you.
Um, I I think that might have been a problem for me with this album is that for me it doesn't have like for me the flow between songs didn't feel very narrative esque, so I didn't really
Hmm.
craft much of a narrative in my head, except for like a few kind of disconnected moments on certain songs. So like when I get to a song like this, it's like where I feel like there's a little bit of a clash lyrically and instrumentally. It's like when I listen to the verses, I like kind of just ignore the lyrics. But then when I get into the chorus, like I do. This isn't to say that the lyrics are bad. I like them. They're very kind of vivid and descriptive and weird. And then I get to the chorus, and like at this point, I'm kind of in with the lyrics. And then they do the pitch shifting, and I'm like, I like the pitch shifting in general, but on this song, it just kind of feels gimmicky, and so this
Hmm.
song has a slightly odd emotional arc for me. I still like it, but like I have criticisms. That's kind of what it's like for me. It's kind of like when you have a movie you like, but then like when you recommend it to someone, you got to bring up like the plot holes. That's how I feel about this song.
Mm. Well, I have to kind of back up my point that I think this album is perfect. And I really do, because although there isn't much of a flow between between the songs, I mean, I do think that it's okay because fuck, I don't know, dude. Like,
Cuz you're on
I
drugs, so you
I'm
only
on, yeah, you're on
experience
drugs and you're like
so
kind of
you
like ADHD and you're zoned out and you just kind of go through emotion and from emotion to another emotion without much like flow between them. And I think that's the part of like the unpredictable journey of the mollusk. You're just going from emotion to emotion, from song to song, not really knowing what to expect. And yeah, it can be off-putting to some, but I think that's why it's perfect to me.
um yeah, um I could see myself getting a bit more used to the flow if I listen to it multiple times. Like,
Yeah.
for now, though, I definitely felt like this album almost could have used more of a concept. Like, it almost could have used a little bit more connecting threads between the songs. And like, I mean, I could make I could make some more connections than I have. Like, maybe this song here, the next song, the Blarney Stone, is pretty clearly like that one. I had a pretty clear image in my mind of like a bar sing along. So maybe this song is like you're hanging out in the alleyway behind the bar getting high on acid.
Yeah. Like it's all about just like putting effort into finding your own connections, I think. And that may be like making excuses, far reaching excuses for an album being shit, but you know.
Well, this album is far from shit. It's great. I just have a few issues with the way it flows and with some aspects of with like some extremely occasional aspects of the songwriting. I think the thing about this album for me is that, see, I feel like on this album, so Dean Ween once described the album as the only record that I ever felt really confident about. I kind of feel like the general impression I get from this is that it's like kind of the most like refined, like uniform, cohesive Ween album. And I think for me it's like there's a few things like when they do like the pitch shifted chorus on this song, or like when we get to the instrumental track, Pink Eye, there's like one part where I find the instrumental a little obnoxious. And when we get to like parts like that on this album, it almost feels a little out of place. Because like
Hmm.
I think the thing about this album for me is that I really like when an album can either capture like an almost like narrative like flow where it's very kind of going throughout different moods and twists and turns, and it feels like you're really like immersed in a story. And I also like it a lot when an album can kind of capture a certain mood and almost just kind of stay there the whole time, or even kind of a weird mix of the two. But this album for me is like it almost captures just like one mood, and like on the songs where they do that, they do it perfectly. So I think sometimes when it breaks from that, it bothers me a little bit. Now there's other
Hmm.
times where it doesn't. Like again, I'll Be Your Johnny on the Spot does not fit the mood of the Mollusk, which is the mood of this album that I like the most. But I like it a lot there. And this song, Mutilated Lips, again, it's a very good song, but you know.
Yeah.
Um Now, do you have anything else you want to say? Do you have any more
No.
joy you want to bring to the world after I sucked it out?
No.
Okay. Well, speaking of joy, this song here, The Blarney Stone, this is an extremely joyful song.
I love this.
It's
Is one of my favorites.
it really puts a smile on my face. I like it quite a bit. Like I I like this song's like it's very just like kind of crude and unabashed about that. It's like it's a bar. It really is like a bar sing along song. They record like they don't have like a drum track or a bass track on this album. It's just like an acoustic guitar, uh, him singing in a Scottish pirate accent, and like some crowd noises.
Yeah, and
and
like
and what's it's great is that the crowd like I like that you can clearly tell that they didn't just like use any pre-recorded sound effects or just like record like like a few people just like doing noises at certain times. It's clear that they got like a bunch of guys together in a room and just like recorded the whole thing in like one take, because like there's times when the crowd sings along to a few lyrics or like starts chanting or something like that, and it's like it really gets you into the song. By the end of it, you might not be singing along yourself if you're a joyless fuck like me, but you're kind of like swaying along like it's an old cartoon.
yeah, and like here's the appeal of this song. Because okay, imagine you're a pirate. The
Yeah.
only things you care about is getting money, fucking hoes, and get drinking. Those are the only things you care about. And
Okay,
while you are
so
caught up in your
either you're a pirate or you're a rapper or
they're the
you're
same
a
thing.
politician.
Yeah, they're all the same
Oh
things.
snap, I did it. I made an obligatory political reference. We do that every episode.
And like you while you're caught up in your heat and you get so drunk you start singing about what you are, and that you are a toxically masculine pirate. But I can forget my leftist bullshit politics for one fucking song, and I can sing along, and it's so great, it's so joyful. I am a pirate, you cannot tell me otherwise. I will fuck broads and drink, though I never done those things in my life.
I was wondering when the rant would show up.
Oh, it
um,
only gets better from here. I will not be fucking oppressed by your joy-sucking ways,
I.
Rei the Eldritch Enby.
Whoa. Oh no, I need to push back with my many tentacles because I'm eldritch. um, this song, it's like a, it's like a Disney villain song.
Yeah.
That's the way I describe it. Specifically, this song is like Ratigan, his song from The Great Mouse Detective, or like Gaston, his song. That's what it
Yeah.
reminds me of. Where it's like this is a clearly he's a morally objectionable guy. He pulls his claymore and. I'm trying to decide if you were just laughing because you knew what I was about to say or not. So
Don't
I
know.
was about to say like he pulls out his claymore and he sticks it inside of women. Oh god. But he's like, he like owns that. He owns his wretched identity and he has fun with it, and you might not even you don't even like sympathize. Like I don't sympathize with this song. But like you have fun with it. You
Yeah.
kind of uh you kind of get into the mindset that he has. Oh
Yeah.
god, that description.
I regularly fuck women with my claymore.
Oh no. Um, but yeah, uh, but so I really like here how we have this kind of jokey acoustic song here with the Blarney Stone, very like kind of lo-fi and crude, and then we get into the probably the most kind of straightforwardly sad ballad on the album, but in a good way.
Yeah.
This song here, it's gonna be parentheses all right. I really like this song quite a bit.
Yeah, me too. It's like it's a short ballad that has great guitar sounds, has like a weird keyboard in the background that's pretty good. It's just like it's gonna be all right. It's all gonna be all right. Ray, Ray, it's going to be all
It
right.
is. Yeah, it's yeah. This song like lyrically, it's a breakup song, and it's a pretty good, well written one at that. Um, it just really just kind of cuts to the heart of things, and it doesn't try to overstep its boundaries too much. Like it it has some pretty poetic descriptions in it, and if the mist ever lets the sun through, I just hope I did the right thing for me and you, which is a very lovely line. But this isn't there are no orchestral swells or guitar solos or anything like that. It doesn't
Yeah.
do a, I don't know, a My Heart Will Go On kind of thing. It's not that kind of ballad. It's just kind of keeps its very depressive, kind of down tempo, low key feel the whole time, which is not really words you'd use to describe this band, but in this case, them going so far out of their usual bounds kind of makes it better. Um, and yeah, just it's this moment. Even though these songs are tonally opposed, I do well, the first time I listened to it, I was a bit thrown off, but this time I was a lot more okay with it because it's almost I really like the idea of something that's ironic becoming sincere, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the flow of these two songs. It's you start off with this goofy vulgar bar song, and then it all of a sudden just gets into this really really depressive breakup song. Or I love another one. The lyrics here that I love here is guess I'm ruled by my heart, built to laugh, and I tore it all apart. Man, this song, I love it. Just like I said, cut straight to the core.
Yeah. Turns out that pirate has he isn't just a stone cold bro.
Well, that could be it. Or maybe it's you ran into an ex at that bar or something. You were singing along to that song, and then you look over and you see the girl who used to be of your dreams, and then you go up on stage and you sing this song for her.
I like that.
Maybe
See, you're
that's
getting it. You're getting it. You're making up the narrative as it goes.
well, I have no idea what this next song is about, but I love it anyway, and that would be The Golden Eel. And I will not say the lyrics to this song. I'm not even gonna glance at them once, except I already am, because I cannot reveal the words of The Golden Eel. Well, hey, I did it.
God damn it. But this song is sounds very grand.
This song is like a prog song.
It is.
Like, firstly, I'm pretty sure it's one of the longer songs on the album.
Yeah, an entire 4 minutes.
Yeah, most of the songs on this are 3 minutes. This is four. There's two songs longer than this. Although, really, there's only one song longer than this. But either way, it feels pretty proggy just because of how grand the instrumentation gets. Like, this song, it starts off like really. It's just kind of like a fuzzy, kind of lo fi guitar. And, one of them singing through a vocal filter. Um, and then just like all of a sudden we get into like a big like some really big pounding drums, some kind of keyboards laying down like a pretty thick Pink Floydy chord progression, all kinds of stuff going on all of a sudden. And like, I'm sure this song isn't like super technical, but it feels like it at the time because you've been in this like,
Yeah.
uh, even if you're not actually on any drugs or anything, you're in this like kind of stonery mindset for most of the album.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and I really appreciate like how big this song feels after these last two, like much smaller and uh softer songs. Well, the Blarney Stone is still the same volume, but it's just so much more lo-fi that it doesn't really seem like it. So, but yeah, this is a really fun one. It's fun in spite of like how big it is and how like you know he just kind of like the lyrics on this one are all about just like kind of sitting alone and not being sure what you're even thinking about, and but it doesn't really feel uncertain. It feels like very like we said, grand.
Yeah. But like, I don't know. I think narrative wise, it's kind of like you after you go up and you sing just the song for the girl, you just take a bunch of drugs again. You just drown your sorrows in the drugs, and you kind of have this big moment of you don't not really sure what it is, but everything seems clearer and everything seems grand and open, which is just what the golden eel is. The golden eel is a sensation rather than an actual physical thing. I'm deep, I think.
That would make sense. I mean, like, I imagine this song like this is another one where like I'll be your Johnny on the spot. I have no clue what's happening, but I do have a location. This one, it feels like you're in like a dark cave, and
Yeah.
like I'd like to imagine the golden eel as like glowing. Maybe it's like a light bulb, fitting in with the idea thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
So now after this we're into another very 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 sad song here for the most part. Um called Cold Blows the Wind, and this is the other one that isn't like a Ween original. This is I believe the lyrics here are from an old English folk song called The Unquiet Grave.
Hmm.
And the premise of this song, it's about now in the original story it's a young man, but I think this song is actually from a girl's perspective. It's about a young man who mourns his dead love too hard. He kind of grieves so hard that she cannot obtain peace herself. Um, and he he like he asks for a kiss and she tells him it would kill him, and then he says that he wants to join her anyway, but that but she explains that if they did, they would both just kind of like fade away. And so she tells him to enjoy the life while he still has it. So, very. So, this song is like. It's like a dark fairy tale, which is like. Which is really bizarre. Like, this song, it doesn't. It's not what you'd expect from the Ocean Man band. You
Yeah.
know, it's like really just like dark. It's almost kind of like a dirge, but like a very interesting one. This is another like some great keyboards on this song, and very another like very like brooding acoustic guitar part. One thing that I really like just about the sound of this album, we've I feel like I honestly feel like I haven't said much of anything for most of this time, but I will say that I think the sound of this album is perfect. Like,
Oh
in
yeah.
terms of, like, the guitars all pretty much always have the right effect on them. Like, and they never sound too big or too well produced, but they also don't sound too lo-fi. You know, it sounds really it still kind of has that same vibe of just like a couple of guys screwing around in their studio. Like
Yeah.
it it feels very the mixing is very comfy. It doesn't sound like you're in a stadium or even just like a concert hall. I know that's not the right term, but you know what I mean. It doesn't feel like you're at like a venue or anything. It feels like you're in like a room or like a cave, you know. You're in like a cave near a beach. That's like what the album kind of sounds like. And I think the keyboards and electronics they choose usually add to that quite a lot too. Um,
Yeah.
and this one has like a particularly memorable sound in general, and just like I really and yeah, just like I couldn't make out all of the lyrics to this song, but it's like the the imagery of a lot of this. Like I love the the phrase "lily white lips." Like I can immediately imagine just like what these people look like just from just from the description of the lips. You know.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, just like and it and I don't know if these lyrics are like kind of directly from the story or if they were rewritten. It still has a songwriting credit to Gene and Dean, and doesn't have a songwriter to credit for the original writer, though we're not entirely sure who wrote it to begin with. So it could just be for that reason. But either way, like it feels like very faithful to the time period. Like the the biggest one of the bigger lyrical refrains here, "I'll do as much for my true love as any girl may. I'll sit and weep down by his grave for 12 month and 1 day." Like it has that kind of flow to it that a lot of like old kind of folk songs do. Like this song, it almost feels kind of like an old Celtic folk song, really.
Yeah.
It it kind of feels like it doesn't feel like it just came out in like 1997, even though the instrumentation is clearly modern. This song kind of feels like it's always been there.
Yeah. It's a nice like break in the album where you get this kind of very emotional moment, an otherwise very odd album, and it kind of brings the album like down to earth and really kind of humanizes it, I think.
Yeah, I think this song and It's Gonna Be Alright both do a lot to just like really, like you said, humanize the album. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then we're into an instrumental track called Pink Eye, parentheses, on my leg.
I have okay, so you know the Gorilla song Glitter Freeze? They're the same song. This is they're the same song.
Oh, I like
Pink
this.
on
I like this song more than Glitter Freeze.
Oh yeah, this one's like a better Glitter Freeze though. They're the
No,
same. I realized they're the same song. Before we start the podcast.
nice. This song, I don't. There's one part where I find the synth like a little bit obnoxious, and that's like towards like the like 3/4 mark when it kind of starts like harmonizing with itself. I'm not sure if you know what I'm referring to,
Yeah,
but
I
like
do.
that part, I was like, I'm not so sure about this. This sounds a little wrong, but like otherwise, like that wasn't like a big thing. Whereas like Glitter Freeze, I start the song and then it's and I'm like, I have a headache. I'm skipping the song. But we'll get into that on the Gorillas podcast that might be coming at some point in the not too distant, but probably distant when the show inevitably falls off its upload schedule future. I accidentally said schedule instead of future. um, this song, this one just outright sounds like a song from an old video game, and I appreciate that a lot. Like, this song kind of reminds me of, like, you know how, like, in the PS1 days, sometimes you'd have to just, like, they wouldn't have, like, the money to, like, make a dog barking sound effects. They just use like like a generic like a stock dog sound effect.
Yeah.
Um, that's kind of what it reminds me of. It reminds me like if you're standing in like a room near a beach in like an old RPG, like where it has one of like the pre-rendered backgrounds where you know, like you can kind of tell it's like a flat image and it almost looks kind of like the colors look a little bit off. Like you're standing in a room with a dog
Yeah.
in an old RPG. That's what this song sounds like to me.
Yeah.
I'm also the only time, forget everything I said about the synth. The only time it was actually interrupted for me, the mood, is the that they put in the song.
I
Uh,
love that part.
Maybe that represents the player. Whoa, snap! I did it.
Damn.
I insulted the audience and myself. I did it.
But yeah, I like this. I just like how kind of weird and off-putting it is because you just had this like um big emotional song with all these with all these tears, with all the fucking emotions, and you're just crying. You're on the floor. All hope is lost. But then you just get pink eye on my leg, and it kind of puts you in a better mood.
It's like okay, going back to the RPG comparison, it's like when it's like that last song. It's like you're watching like a pre-rendered cutscene with like I don't know, like maybe it's like or like one of your party members died, or like it was like a romance scene or something. Um, it's like beautiful and like you feel all the emotions because it's like it just ramped up everything to a whole different level, and then it's like you're like, okay, cool, now let's go fight, let's go do a side quest, let's go fight like a goofy optional boss.
Yeah.
That's what this song feels like. It's like uh that's what it's like.
And then we have waving my dick in the wind.
Yep. This song, this is an interesting one in terms of the sound and the influence. The vocal melody when he does like the kind of repeated phrases, it's like kind of country-ish, kind of like country folk-ish. Um, and then but then the instrumentation here is, like, it's not really like that at all. It's kind of alt rocky. Um,
Yeah.
so except for when we get into the dance segments where they kind of add some additional tap dance percussion rather onto the track. So yeah, very interesting sound wise, and I like this song because in spite of the absurd title and like humorous lyrics, uh, this song, I like this one because it's like ironic and sincere. Like the lyrics here, I'm waving my dick in the wind. I'm waving my dick in the wind. But if all goes right, I'll be in your arms tonight. But I'm waving my dick in the wind. Like, oh, if I make it through the night, everything will be all right. But I'm lost in the sauce once again. It's like kind of sincere. Like, he like cares about the person he's singing about, but he's also just like kind of joking around. I like the lyric interpretation here on Genius, which says, "This man is missing his woman, but to get to her, he, quote, waves his dick at his winds, or more literally, makes himself look like a complete idiot for her. Must be love." I dig this interpretation. Um, Also, there's a random old man here called Jimmy Wilson.
Yeah. It's fucking great. I love this song. It's like it's another one that fills me with just pure happiness. It's kind of like I'll be your Johnny on the spot, but done better. Um, and it's just yeah.
I can't decide which one, I don't know which one of these two I like more. Like, um, probably this one because the like I said, the tone, the sort of tonal tightrope walk going on here is an interesting one, and I think
Yeah.
the instrumentation is about the same. And also, this one doesn't like directly mention a farm, so if you do want to make up a narrative, you can make it up a little easier.
Yeah. Sometimes you just wave your dick in the wind, and sometimes you meet a dancing old man named Jimmy Wilson. Sometimes it be like that.
Hopefully, you're not doing both at the same time.
Sometimes it has to be at the same time.
Oh no. Um. All right. Well, let's tap our way over. There we go. That was a good segue to Buckingham Green. This is another one uh, that gets really big. This one
Yeah.
is like it. It's interesting. It's like you have like two stanzas of lyrics here, and then you get into like a big instrumental passage, like possibly the biggest one yet on the album. Uh, and then just kind of two more stanzas with some little, like, kind of digital orchestra over it, and then the song's over. Uh, which I think is an interesting song structure and an interesting sound. Um, One thing I realized, I'm uh, I might have gotten this song and the Golden Eel mixed up. I remember one of these two songs. I remember thinking the chord progression and the keyboard sounded a lot like Pink Floyd. I think it is the Golden Eel though.
Mm.
This one, it still kind of was giving off that kind of prog rock kind of
Yeah.
vibe during the
And
instrumental
I
passage.
think this is more like prog rock than the Golden Eel because it has like a very kind of not very technical, but a pretty technical Ween like guitar solo. And
Yeah, that was the part that really stood out about this track. It it took me a second to kind of, even though I listened to this album twice in preparation for this, there are a few like details of certain songs that I still had to kind of rearrange.
mm,
But yeah, um, one thing that's funny here lyrically, uh, Buckingham Green. You could. There's three readings of the title and also the thing they are talking about. So either you could be like me, you could be stupid, and you could be like, they're talking about like the green, the yard on Buckingham Palace. Um, but then there's also like a shopping village slash strip mall called Buckingham Green in Buckingham, Pennsylvania, which is pretty close to Gene and Dean Ween's hometown of New Hope, Pennsylvania.
mm.
And then the third one is that they are talking about is that they could be talking about a type of LSD. So it
I think
could
the
be
final one is more likely.
um well, I mean, they do mention one of the lyrics is "Summon the Queen, spoke the child of I. It's time to fly." So maybe it's both. Maybe it's the palace and the LSD. It's an LSD
Yeah,
palace.
that sounds sick. But yeah, I think
Where
this
the
is a
Beatles
good.
used to perform.
Oh, nice.
the the
Um,
uh, the idea of an LSD palace. I'm not saying that's where the Beatles actually performed.
why did I respond like that? I'm stupid. Anyway, I think this is really great build up to the big climax of the album, Ocean Man, which is the best song of all time, and I'll fight anyone who like treats it as a meme. Because first of all, the SpongeBob movie is the greatest movie of all time. It's the absolute peak of narratives. It period, and it's the ending song to that film, and that already has like an emotional connection to because SpongeBob was a big part of my childhood. And then there's also it's just the climax of the album, which is yeah.
um, I don't know if I'd call this song a the climax of the music video. The music video. What the fuck? Ah! Um. Oh man, I'm just gonna rewind. You just gotta cut that. You just gotta cut everything, including both of my wrists. Um. Okay, maybe just keep all of that in there because of that wrist
Okay.
joke. That was like the only good joke I've made this episode. Um. But I wouldn't really call this the climax of the album. I'd say it's more like the first part of the resolution.
Mm.
Um, just cause like the vibe of this song is very like it's kind of like it's I don't know about it's like a sequel to the title track, you could say.
Yeah.
This song is like, on the last one on the title track you were like reconnecting with someone you knew, or maybe it was like a whimsical new person, and this one is like another new whimsical person, but like it's like you're gonna go on a whole new journey, and like now you're older and wiser, so the journey will go even better.
Yeah.
So yeah. um yeah, if you I think if you treat this song as a meme, like I think that's kind of lame because I think it's a better song than that. Like
Yeah.
there's a quote from an AllMusic review where they said they referred to this song as an example of Ween's array of silly jokes and musical parody being richer and more diverse than most of their alternative rock contemporaries. I would agree with that quote completely. Like this basically just like a fun like alternative rock pop song, but like it's so distinct and memorable.
Yeah.
Like no one else would make this a kind of esoteric song about a whimsical sea man that's like kind of tropical
Yeah.
and like also just yeah, instrumentally I really like this song. I like the two guitar parts. I really like the guitar solo. That's a lot of fun. Um, I like the little drum fill at the beginning and some of the other drums going on here. And the bass. This was one thing I will say, maybe is a slight flaw. This is one of the few times that I really noticed like kind of a cool bass sound on this album. Most of the time
Hmm.
it's really only like the guitars and the keyboards that have a very distinct sound to them.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So, yeah, it's more than a meme. This song, maybe it is the best part of the narrative cuz this is the part where you jaded Gen Z and or millennial listener get to go on the same journey of ironic to sincere because you go from being like lol what a good meme I like the emojis in the meme to being like to jam in
Yeah.
yeah
Um,
or something like that. Also, I like that we said at the same time. But what were
yeah.
you about to say, more interesting person than me?
Shut up. Anyway,
Never.
I like I like to expand on what you said because yeah, you're like a jaded fucking millennial or Gen Zoomer, and you just you're like memes. I'm gonna listen to the Ocean Man album, and then all of a sudden you get into this like beautiful album, which like goes from like humorous to sincere to sad
The
to you're
Ocean
just
Man
jamming
album.
out, and it turns you into a notch of shit. It's great.
Yep. Uh, um, unless your armor is too thick and you're like, oh no, I need to be smart on this podcast, except when I need to be relatable. Haha. Like me.
I'm not smart. I never try to be smart.
Um, the best part of your description is that I actually have referred to this as like the one with Ocean Man. Like not really to other people, but like like I think I was like, yeah, we should do the Mollusk because it's the one with Ocean Man. It's the
Yeah,
one people
me.
know.
Yeah.
Um, but so and then we get into the final resolution of the album. She wanted to leave.
She did.
What do you think of this song?
I like that. This is like the perfect resolution to this album. It's emotional, but it's very accepting. Cause like think about the journey you just went on. You come out and like this guy offers you like a journey. You go on the journey, but then then you fucking remember your ex. But it's okay because you go to drink. But then when you go to drink, you see your ex and you try to wow her with a song, but it doesn't work. So you take some drugs, and then you remember that you're just mourning her. You're mourning her because you lost her, but then your boys come and they take you on the ship again, and then you accept the fact that you are a pirate and that's what you're meant to be. Might as well move on. And she wanted to leave. You just have to accept that she wanted to leave, and now you can stop taking drugs all the time to drown your sorrows and be the pirate you are. arc.
That's accurate. Yeah. I yeah. I like this song a lot because it's kind of like, I called it the resolution to the album, but I also just think there's like a pretty strong sense of resolution in just the sound of the song itself. Um, and I like how in this, the lyrically, I like how this song is kind of like, the guy goes from being, like you said, there's like a emotional arc in the lyrics here where he goes from being like really just kind of outraged, uh, like angered, and it just kind of in disbelief about the relationship ending, and then towards the end of it, um I mean, it sounds like he's still drinking his sorrows away at the ending of the song, but then he also says he's not the man he used to be, now he's one of them. So, maybe he's self-aware and he's like, I'll stop. But I mean, most people who are self-aware actually don't fix any of their habits, like, I'm totally not one of those people, but like that would be a way you could describe me. And anyone else who writes memes on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so yeah, great ending to the album. Especially at the end, there's a hidden bookend where it plays a sort of redone instrumental of "I'm Dancing in the Show Tonight" with like more kind of regular instruments that the band's been using. Like, it's mostly like a keyboard instead of the kind of dinky like kids piano they were playing at the beginning. I guess that's another example of kind of the ironic to sincere vibe of the album. Though, really, if they wanted to capture that fully, it would just be kind of going all over the place at both the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
The only thing, the only really, like, negative thing here that I have to say, not about this song, I should have brought it up with Ocean Man, is that, in spite of what I said, I'm kind of not sure about the flow right there. Like, Ocean Man, it kind of like, it kind of feels a little bit too like energetic and fun. I'm not sure how to describe it, but something about kind of the tone of the instrumentation there feels a little off compared to the preceding and succeeding tracks there.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, I'm just stupid. So, yeah.
Yeah. Fucking. I disagree. It's perfect. It's. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm a pirate, Ray. Don't you understand? I am a pirate.
Well, I'm not a pirate. I'm a sophisticated artist, except I fail at all the art I do. So maybe I should be a pirate. Maybe I should pirate everything and not just anime. Let's go. Let's go on our magical pirate journey after we finish reviewing the album with our final thoughts. What are your final thoughts? I already know your final thoughts, but say them anyway.
10 out of 10. Greatest album ever. It's in my top 10. Um, Fucking Ocean Man, take me by the hand like you did when you showed me the Mollusk and Let's Be Pirates.
I'm gonna give this album an 8 still. Um, I think with this album, I'm gonna put it on. This album is a good album if I'm like, I want to listen to music and I want to be immersed in it, but I'm not sure what emotion I'm feeling. then I'll just put on this, because then I can just feel a little bit of every emotion. You know, it's like the album cover, a little bit of every sea creature. Or if I ever go to the beach, you know, then I'll just put it on. Because yeah, I think this is a pretty great album overall. Like, you know, I have my issues because, you know, this is a review podcast, but you know, I still think like this is a pretty interesting and great album with a lot of variety on it. And I feel like that'll probably be true of most of this band's material. I mean, you know, in between my first and second listens, I didn't find any I tried to like find some more like things to look up about them. Like I'd gone on YouTube and I'd search for them, and like there weren't any analysis videos, but I'm like, maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah. I don't need this album ruined by a bunch of blowhard analysis. That's not how analysts
I guess,
trying to be like, this album, eh.
well, I don't think that's how it would go. I think it would be more just like, you know, here's the process of making it. Here's how that affected it. Here are the themes explored. I couldn't decide if I wanted to say things or themes, so I said both. um I, but in a way, maybe I was wrong. Maybe we were all wrong. Maybe I shouldn't try and be like, the flow from track to track, the album experience. Maybe I should just have fun. I think that's the real message of Ween. Have
Yeah.
fun. Be pirates. But be like, you know, like Pirates of the Caribbean pirates who are like actually the good guys.
Yeah, be that.
You know, maybe that's the message. And that's also our final message on this episode. Hey, I've been Rei the Eldritch Enby / Rei the Offbeat Otaku.
I've been Princess Plunderphonics, aka Max.
Okay, fuck it. I'm just gonna say Rei the Eldritch Enby because this isn't even an anime thing.
Mm.
And like everything else, I felt a need to deflate the climax of our sign off because we live in the post meta ironic neo age.
Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of this podcast, this time with Noisebandit.
Yo.
And we're just gonna get straight into it. So what did you think of this album?
Alright, so I listened to this album, like, literally not even, like, less than 5 minutes ago because I have been busy. That's why I wasn't on the first part. It was, you know, a lot of stuff going on, but I think, overall, I kind of had mixed feelings on it. If I were to give it a rating, I give it, like, a strong 6 to a light 7. And it's not, again, it's not a bad album. I wouldn't call it bad. It's just kind of not really my thing.
I see.
Though, I mean, again, it's not like every track is mediocre. It's just some tracks were better than others, but I feel like, in some ways, the mediocre and, in my opinion, not that great track kind of, like, outweighed the tracks that I thought were pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, I know you're a big fan of this album, because yeah, but that was just kind of my thoughts on it. I have like notes that I've written down for each song while I was listening to them and what I thought of them. So yeah.
Okay then.
Okay.
So let's just get into the tracks here because I already you already know this is one of my favorite albums. So welcome to the Dancing at the Show Tonight.
Yeah.
So what did you think of this?
I thought this was a pretty good way to open an album. It's definitely very unique. It's not the kind of thing you'd expect from, like, you know, a psychedelic rock band. This kind of, like, like sort of, I'm not sure how to describe it, kind of like Broadway kind of opener with like this sort of jaunty melody and sort of, multi what's the word? Not multi-layered, but like multi-pitched, yeah, multi-pitched vocals, kind of sort of intimidating, sort of, the child vocals. It's very, I liked it. It definitely kind of put me in like an interesting mood, and sort of I was wondering if this album would sort of go more places like it, and it kind of did, but yeah, no, it's definitely really interesting, and I think if there's one thing I'll give this album is that the songwriting is pretty strong. Like even on with like I think like with one exception, from like a purely like sort of songwriting perspective of just how the instruments are played and arranged, it's really interesting, and I did enjoy that. Like it definitely has a very kind of like these guys listen to a lot of different music. It has that feeling, and I mean, given this band's kind of musical background and just like listening to a whole bunch of weird stuff, it definitely gives the vibe of just like these guys are definitely very creative and weird.
Yeah, like one of my favorite things about this band in general is that they are very multifaceted and weird. Like they're not really weird in the sense of like they make super inaccessible music. They're more weird in the sense of like there's not really another band like Ween. And I think this track perfectly demonstrates that.
Yeah, so I definitely I kind of did kind of I'm not gonna say recoil, but kind of just went like, what the fuck when I was first listening to it, because I'm just like, what is this? But then like once I kind of got used to it, I'm just like, this is pretty cool. All right. So the next track on this album is the sort of the title track, the Mollusk. And this one, I immediately got a very like relaxed vibe with sort of the acoustic guitar playing and the vocals, which throughout most of this album are just like layered in effects and like multi-layering and stuff. It kind of just set a trend for me on this album where I kept thinking, wow, this song is very trippy and laid back, like multiple times. Yeah. And like it's not a bad thing in and of itself, but when you kind of have this expectation of this band being like incredibly eclectic, having songs that kind of sound similar to each other playing over and over again, it kind of just leaves a bit of a sour taste in the mouth, but like not too much. Like I did enjoy the track. I did like it, but like I wouldn't say this was like one of my favorites. And I could say the same to the next song, Polka Dot Tail. Kind of have the same vibe, sort of similar. I mean, actually, I have the notes right here. I'm just going to read them out. So, the Mollusk. Like the laid-back vibe and multi-layered vocals, period. Very trippy and progressive-like, period. Polka Dot Tail. Similar to the last track, comma. Relaxed and trippy, period. Cool guitar solo interlaced in. Reminds me of Omar Rodriguez Lopez. The vocals are starting to get a little annoying. And that's kind of another issue I had with this album was I kind of didn't really enjoy the vocals most of the time. Like, there are exceptions later on, but overall, I think their vocal style is very much just, like, do funny voices, and that kind of just isn't enough for me a lot of the time, or it's just kind of annoying, like I just said. And again, like, it's kind of it's a acquired taste, I would guess, and I would assume that's probably not much of an issue for you, the vocals.
Yeah, I really like the vocals, because it's kind of a staple of Ween in general. And I think it really gives this album character and the whole band a certain character to it. And it's just, the Mollusk in general is a very different Ween album from the rest of them, because most Ween albums are very like ADHD in their presentation, while the Mollusk is has one singular theme and they're sticking to that theme. While still being pretty eclectic, it's still trying to be, because like one of the members said that this is the only album they really felt confident with.
Interesting, because I know this band has made a lot of albums. Like, I think in total this band made about, not counting like the really early sort of weird demo tapes they made. This band made 9 albums, and and I can kind of tell that, like, because I haven't heard a lot about their earlier stuff or their later stuff. It's just like this album has been sort of, pointed out as like the best.
Yeah.
Which, I, as someone who hasn't listened to any of Ween's other stuff, I really can't say whether or not, that's, I can think that, but from the small snippets that I've heard from other albums, like, yeah, this album is kind of different. But yeah, so the next track on the album, I'll Be Your Johnny on the Spot. I'm just going to read the notes for this. Weird and punk-like, not a big fan of it. Vocals are monotone and he sounds like he is falling asleep. Guitar solo is okay, but not enough to save the song. Songwriting not great on this. And it's, I just, like I said, I don't really like this song. It was kind of just, it kind of reminded me of like what happens when like a bunch of dads try to write a punk song, and like they can't play their instruments or sing, and like I don't know what you think of the song, but this was probably one of the lowest, if not the lowest point of this album for me.
I'll Be Your Johnny on the Spot is definitely probably like one of my least favorites on the album, but at the same time, I absolutely love it. Because I kind of crafted this weird narrative in my head where it's like I'm dancing at the show tonight is this good introduction, and then the Mollusk is like the protagonist gets like introduced to this mystical character who takes them on a journey, and the polka dot tail is like you're experiencing it for the first time and it's all weird, and I'll Be Your Johnny on the Spot is like, okay, you're good with this journey, and it's going fast and it's a very weird pace change. But I think like as a punk song it's not very good, but as a song in general I'd say it's pretty good, like if you take the punk label off of it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to sort of separate it from it. Like I said, though the guitar solo is fine. Like I did think it kind of did give the song flavor when it was mostly just kind of just one note over and over again, which kind of it was somehow like boring, even though it was only 2 minutes long, at least for me, anyways. But all right, so next song, Mutilated Lips. I think definitely this is one of the higher points on this album. Like it had sort of the trippy vibe that the Mollusk and Polka Dot Tail had, but it felt a lot more like they put a lot more effort into it. And I'll just read the notes. Vocals, Mutilated Lips, trippy and slow, but feels a lot more genuine, period. Kind of sounds like Failure, but more weird, referring to the band Failure. Vocal effects give it a bit more humor and are better than they were before. I think definitely the strong point on the song is the part where it's like the really kind of low, kind of not really whisper, but kind of like groan things about the mutilated lips, no. That was, I normally kind of don't like that kind of stuff, but in this song it felt like it worked because the song kind of had this kind of trippier vibe, but it really felt like they were really going in on the trippy vibe, where on the other songs it just kind of felt like, I don't know, not maybe a little half-hearted. I mean, that's just kind of my opinion, but yeah.
The half-hearted criticism I'd like to address, because I think this album tries to blend irony and sincerity. And I think that's one of the things it's going for, because you have very jokey and very kind of shitposty, for lack of a better word, sounds on here.
Yeah.
And
we'll get to that later.
But at the same time, you have like very emotional cuts, and it's kind of like bring you in with a joke, and then balancing it with the drama as well, which is why it's one of my favorite albums. It's one of the reasons why, at least.
All right. I mean, I guess I just didn't really get that same vibe. I think it probably has to just do with sort of maybe me and you having sort of different perspectives and sort of, not really directions, but sort of backgrounds going into this, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So, next song, The Blarney Stone. This is a very short note. Scottish people are funny, LOL. Also, pirates are funny, I guess. I didn't like this song. It just kind of felt like, Scottish people are funny!
Oh, God.
The song just felt filler. Like, it just felt like just like one joke filler, and like maybe this could have worked on like a comedy album, but you know this album is not a comedy album, so it just kind of, I mean, maybe it is, but like not in the traditional sense. I don't know. This song just kind of felt, it's just like, this is just like you said, one big shit post of a song.
Yeah, but surprisingly, this is one of my favorites on the album because because it's just such a fun cut. Like it's such a fun song you can sing along to, and it really puts you in the mood of the album. This very nautical theme. What's more nautical than pirates?
Yeah, Scottish pirates.
Yeah.
But okay, so next song on the album, It's Gonna Be Alright. So I think, in my opinion, this is probably my favorite song off the album. I'll rate the notes right here. Like the phaser effects on the guitar, sounds like the softer parts of grunge met country. Pretty alright. ... But didn't like the sun stop though. Okay, so this song, I like it. It's very like, it kind of just felt like, it kind of reminds me of like Mutilated Lips if they stripped back a lot of the trippiness and kind of just let the softness kind of flow. Like the song's in basically the same key. The vocals aren't really that similar, but like it feels a lot more like they actually kind of like, I mean, not to say the Mutilated Lips didn't have heart in the vocals, but this song just kind of felt like they really went through with it, especially during the parts where like the cadence really works well and kind of like I'm not going to try to sing it, but like the parts where they kind of shift in that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like I like the song a lot. I think this is probably my favorite song off the album by far.
Yeah, I think this album, I mean, I think this really fits on the album where it, again, blending irony and sincerity. This is a very sincere cut, and It's Gonna Be Alright is is probably the second most emotional song on here.
Yeah, what would you say would be the first?
Cold Blows the Wind.
Oh, yeah, no, but we'll get to that because it's like in 2 songs.
Yeah.
Alright. So it's, very relaxing. Anything else?
No.
Alright, so next song, The Golden Eel. I'll read the notes. Hard rock riff is pretty cool, pretty heavy since everything has been pretty light so far. Feels big and powerful. I like it. Yeah, I definitely did get like a very sort of hard rocky vibe, but like if they kind of stripped it back, like I call it hard rock stripped back because a lot of it is sort of more in the background, but it still feels kind of heavy and like tense.
Yeah.
And I think it works. It's kind of a little forgettable, but like not super forgettable. Like it's not polka dot tail forgettable. I don't know. I guess it's not. I guess there's not really much to say about this song, but yeah, what are your thoughts?
I think this song kind of sounds like Led Zeppelin, but good.
I mean, like I've never listened to a lot of Led Zeppelin, but I'll take your word.
Because it's kind of it's progressive-ish and very hard rock and very big sounding, but I think it's done in such a much more interesting way than Led Zeppelin. But that's my hot take for the episode.
Yeah. All right. So, like we just said, Cold Blows the Wind. I'll read the notes. Acoustic ballad, vocal effects work well with the kind of tense feeling of the song. The synth effects and strings, ? Couldn't tell, work well too. So yeah, this one is kind of, again, the acoustic ballad on the song. If It's Gonna Be Alright wasn't the acoustic ballad, but the electric ballad. This is the acoustic ballad. And you said this is the most emotional song, and I feel like that is true. Even if the vocal effects with sort of the chorusy feel kind of not really, I mean, kind of took away from it, but like not super. I didn't take it away from it like a lot. You know, it feels very like it. No, I'm not gonna say it's a ripoff of Gonna Be Alright, but it's very much in that kind of same ballpark. So yeah.
The lyrics are actually a folk song because like earlier in this podcast, Ray mentioned that this was a folk song, and it's not. Yeah, it's not exactly a Ween original.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Well, let me check because it doesn't. I don't think it says that, or does it say that on the article? No, it doesn't say that. Actually, no. Wait. Oh, no, what it is. It just didn't. It just didn't label it as the grave. All right. Yeah. Ween plays a version featuring a one weekend for Dead Man on Mollusk. Okay, so no, it technically is not their song. They just like didn't say that on here.
Yeah.
All right. So okay. All right. Let me get to my notes. All right. So next song, "Pink Eye on My Leg." All right. Okay. I'm gonna read the notes. Like the interlocking chorus guitar parts. ... Not so much the weird wailing thing. Period. Dog barks? Question mark. Burps? ... Question mark. Okay. This song is fucking stupid. I didn't like it. This just felt like another like why. I felt like this song probably belonged more on like the songs like this song. This song sounds like the hidden track of a Tenacious D album. Like it just like didn't feel all that interesting. It just felt like really like another dumb joke song.
I think "Pink Eye on My Leg" is just a good, stupid kind of break for the album. Like you just got like one of the most intensely emotional songs on here, and then you just get hit with something stupid. And again, I like that balance. And I
mean,
I like the weird bit.
Yeah, that's what I meant by burped.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know if that was a burp, but it's just like I just kind of felt like either way it's kind of dumb. All right, so all right, next song, "Waving My Dick in the Wind." I'm gonna read the notes. Already great song name. Okay, this is like actually spot on funny. Guitar and other instruments work perfectly. I think this is definitely like what you get when you have like a. It's very polka like.
Yeah.
It's very like fast and like fast paced. Just like right gets to the center of it. I feel like this is the one part where I would say it's kind of like humor on this album kind of like worked for me. I definitely did like the sort of the lyrics, which kind of just felt like a love song, but like there's mentioning of waving dick winds stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just kind of one of those things where it's just like clearly you're having fun with this.
Yeah. Would you say this is kind of like Johnny on the Spot, but kind of better?
Yeah, I would say this is Johnny on the Spot, but better, because like this song, it kind of has the same tempo as it, but like it kind of trades out sort of the punk vibe of that one for the more polka vibe, which I think works better for the humor. Where it just kind of felt like I'll Be Your Johnny on the Spot kind of fell flat. So, all right. So getting closer to the end, Buckingham Green. I'm gonna read the notes. Like the trippy vibe and stuff. ... Kind of fillery. Okay, now it's building up. It sounds epic, but The vocals kind of ruin it. I feel like this is the song where they kind of tried to go for like like I said, the very epic vibe with sort of the vocals relating to things like the British monarchy and stuff, and sort of this building up of something but it just kind of felt, I don't know, it felt kind of mismanaged and all over the place. And it just kind of fell, like I said, it kind of fell flat.
Yeah, but like, Ween kind of sounds like a good middleman of like a big studio band and just a bunch of guys fucking around. Like it's kind of both at the same time. And I think this song kind of being like not as epic as it could be really keeps the aesthetic of a couple guys fucking around.
Yeah, like I get that, because apparently this band did originally from like recording joke demos that were like songs that were meant to be obnoxious for the sake of it. So I can get that, but it's just like, again, it's not really my thing. So whatever. All right. So last song on the album, Ocean Man, the meme song, the big hitter.
Yeah.
The forever to be remembered as the song that somehow became a meme 20 years after it came out.
Or the SpongeBob song.
Yeah, or the SpongeBob song. And like this, I don't really think I have much to say about the song, because everyone and their mom has already heard of it and commented on how amazing it is. But I think this is probably, next to It's Gonna Be Alright, my favorite song on the album. It's very like, it gets kind of, it's fun, it's it's upbeat, it's poppy, it's it has that great guitar solo. It's also very catchy. This is like the pop song, I would say, of this album, and it it works. It works pretty well. I think definitely it has a lot to add. Though it's odd that it like is the final song in the album. That's the weird thing for me is that this like pop song is like the last one on the album instead of Buckingham Green. Because like I guess technically it's not the last song because there's the bonus track. So yeah.
Yeah, She Wanted to Leave sounds much more like an ending track, so I just consider it the ending track.
Oh, okay, but I didn't listen to that one, so.
No.
All right.
But I guess like Ocean Man kind of fits because I always just associate it with the ending of the SpongeBob movie, and that's basically the greatest movie of all time. So.
Oh god, he's like when SpongeBob like was last good until it went to shit.
Yeah.
But we're not gonna go Mr. Enter on you, so. Oh fuck! What happened to him? Okay, but yeah, so this was the Mollusk. Like I said, I'd say this album for me was very hit and miss. Some songs did work well, others kind of didn't. Like again, I feel like where the album kind of works best when it doesn't try to go all jokey and tries to go very more serious or laid back or more sort of emotional. And with the exception of Waving My Dick in the Wind, sort of the humorous songs on this album kind of did fall flat for me. And in general, some of the other songs kind of just didn't really appeal to me at all. Like, again, like this is nothing against the band. Like, very clearly this is something where it wasn't really my thing. And, clearly the fact that you see something in it is, it's a great thing in and of itself, but it's just like, I think for me, I just kind of was just very, not necessarily bored, but kind of just like, I'm kind of not enjoying this for about maybe a third of the album.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So like I said, strong 6 to light 7 for me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I give it a 10. I think it's perfect, but you already heard my weird rants on part 1.
Alright. So I believe that's it. So thank you everyone for listening to the Esoteric Music Deathspiral. Tune in to us next week when we continue our Mars Volta saga and cover their second album, Francis the Mute. This is Noisebandit signing off.
Bye. Jesus.